Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wisconsin Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Raymond. I'm super excited to get into this episode today. But before I do, I want to talk about Wisconsin Discount Properties, who sponsors the podcast. And I'm going to share a little deal with you guys like I've been doing the last few weeks if you've been tuning in. This one that we just had out to our buyers list. It was in Clintonville, Wisconsin. So if you're not familiar with that, that's a little bit west of Green Bay. It's a nice little small town area. 99.9 we had it out to our buyers list for single family house, 4-bed, 1.5 bath, and the ARV on this thing was 200K. Would have worked really well with hard money lending. So a lot of hard money lenders will lend 65% of that after repair value. So you could have got the purchase price plus a good chunk of any kind of rehab budget baked right into that loan from your hard money lender, and had enough spread there to make a few bucks with having hopefully little to none of your own money into a deal like that. So there's deals like that every single week. We're putting out 2 to 5 deals a week to our buyers list. It's all off market stuff. You got to be on the buyers list to be able to get access to these. So if you want to get access to them, you go to wisconsindiscountproperties.com, plug your information in, and you'll start getting instant access to the deals every single week in your inbox and on your texts. That being said, let's dive into today's episode. I got my good buddy Dave Zouski with us. What's up, Dave?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. So those of you guys on YouTube, you can see Dave is freezing his buns off in his vehicle right now, out working on a property. There it is. All right, yeah. So if you guys want to pop over to YouTube, see what he's got going on. But Dave, I've known Dave now for several years. He's been a force in the real estate world here in Northeast Wisconsin. Him and his wife Wanda. We had a mastermind a few years ago. They were part of that mastermind, and they've done really, really well over the last few years in flips and rentals and everything else. But Dave, tell us a little bit about like how you guys got into this. What does the business look like today, and start there.
Sure. We got into it. I got into real estate sales just as an agent back in 2017,
Okay.
working for Expert Real Estate Partners. Did real good for the first couple of years as an agent, and then just kind of realized that there is more money in buying my own and holding my own and flipping than there is in helping sell other people's stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, got started. I think it was 20. Must have been 2019 we bought our first property because it
Okay.
was right when COVID started.
Okay.
Because that one we were working on that one when everything just went haywire.
Oh, okay.
Um, Still hold that property today. It's actually
Nice.
one of our really good cash flowing properties. So
Nice.
um, yeah, and then kind of just actually then about 2021 or 22, I think my wife Wanda, she got into it. She got her real estate license,
Okay.
quit her W-2 job, and we've just been rocking full time in the investing and real estate, basically real estate agent world.
Nice. Nice. So you're pretty much every day you're talking or working on houses or
Oh yeah.
properties all day, every day, right? I mean,
Yep.
you're fully engulfed in it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
love it.
this last year I went and got my GC license, so general contractor. So we do a lot of our own work. We don't really
Okay.
hire a whole lot of stuff out. So
Yep.
we typically only like to work on 1 or 2 properties at a time, just because we don't have the time to get into it,
Yep.
other properties and
Yep.
1 or 2 at a time is plenty for us.
For sure. For sure. How many flips and that sort of thing have you guys done since you got started? If you had
I
to
would say
guess, if you had to
maybe
guess.
flip and sell, I would say maybe 20, 30
Okay.
that we actually flipped and sold.
Okay.
And I mean, we kind of go back and forth. We were up to about 30 rental properties and then we sold a bunch. So,
Okay.
and then bought some more. I think we're back up to 22 or 23 right now.
Very nice.
Still
All
looking to add more. We kind of went through our portfolio and found the ones that really weren't cash flowing that we had some
mm,
equity in and dumped those so we could take the equity and go use it someplace else. So
yep. Cool.
we kind of skimmed some of the crappy ones off the top
Yeah.
and then kept the better ones.
Yep. I did a little bit of that this year too, and worked out pretty well. So I like that straight, a little recapitalization, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. What let's go to that back to the start, Dave. So what was the biggest struggle that you had getting into real estate, or maybe like knowing what you know now? What would you do differently if you had to go restart this whole journey, this whole crazy
Ooh.
life?
Well, one thing that I'm learning now that I know, I wish I would have just picked one bank and just worked with one bank because right now I'm trying to figure out a bank I think I have a shadow on me or something here.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It'd be
okay.
kind of funny, but so yeah, if we just had one bank that we worked with all the time and we had all of our mortgages and all of our properties through, we'd have a heck of a lot better idea what we're able to do right now because we
Okay.
we have a little over $1 million in equity in all of our properties, but they're all spread. There's three or four at one bank, three or
Mm,
four at another bank, and then nobody will give you a line of credit on your properties if they don't hold the first mortgage.
hmm.
So that's one thing I would stress to people is find a good bank that you want to work with and have a relationship with, and stick with them.
Yeah, that is a bit of a pickle. Now there actually has been, Dave, a couple of banks that we found recently that are offering HELOCs as second position
Is it
on properties they do not hold the first position on. So it's kind of a
okay?
new development. In fact, I just interviewed somebody the other day. It'll probably come out a couple weeks before yours. So if you want to go listen to that one, but I
Yeah.
interviewed Brandon and Kayla Farley, and they were talking about how the banker at Nicolay Bank of all banks gave
Hmm.
them a HELOC on a property that Nicolay Bank did not have the first position on. So I
No,
thought
that's
that was
weird
pretty
because I know,
interesting.
yeah, we have our proper main residence that we live in. We have that through Nicolay Bank, and we were able to do a HELOC on that one,
Okay.
but they wouldn't touch anything else.
So interesting. Yeah. Community banks are just so interesting
Yeah,
because it's very relationship based. It's very much like whatever kind of seems like whatever the flavor of the week is for them that they want to do, they
yeah,
do. And then when they fill that bucket of, okay, we've got enough lent out over here, then they just cut that program off and you got to go find another
yeah.
one. And that's kind of what we've struggled. We work with a lot of different banks, so we have a little different strategy, but it's because a lot of times they've had like a great program and we utilize the crap out of it and then they shut it off and it's like,
Hmm.
all right, we got to go find somebody else now who can do something else with it. But I
Yeah.
like your idea. I like your point. It makes a lot of sense because then you could leverage all that equity that you build over time to go parlay those HELOCs into
Oh
whatever
yeah.
else you want to do with it.
Yeah, like I said, when you're sitting on $1 million in equity that you can't use, it kind of sucks because
Yeah,
I wouldn't need a hard money lender or a bank or
that's right.
anything to really go buy another property or do a flip. I could just do it all out of my own pocket and then not have to pay all that interest. So
Yeah, for sure. What have been in the mastermind? We talked about needle movers. When we had you guys in there, we did an exercise figuring out what are the biggest needle movers. What about for you and Wanda? Like, what have been some of the biggest needle movers for you guys? Are the things that have made the biggest difference? Do you think in your guys' success in doing this business?
I think so. Like we had a lady that was doing our taxes the last couple of years, and she really, I don't want to say, but she really didn't do a very good job. And last year we ended up having to pay in a lot of money that we didn't have. So finding a good tax person because that took a lot of time to get all that straightened out, and that put Wanda at the table now working on a computer. I mean, for hours and hours and hours, and finally trying to get all that figured out. So I would say now that we got that figured out, that's freed up a lot more time for us to go and do what we should be doing, what's
Yeah,
making us money,
yeah,
and then kind of realizing when we do the flips that there's a lot of tax money that comes out of that. We usually always try to put away for that. We're always real good about doing that,
yeah.
and then kind of that's kind of another reason why we're wanting to get away from actually doing the flips and selling and just buying and holding them more and just
Hmm.
doing a cash out refi when we get it done because
Yeah,
then all that money's tax free anyway. You don't have to worry
exactly.
about that. So
Yeah, there's a couple things that go back to this for the audience that maybe that some of that went over their head, like what Dave's talking about. When you refinance a property, if you pull some equity out of it, in that moment, it's considered loan proceeds, not income. So you don't have to pay tax on that money, at least until you
hmm,
sell it. At some point,
yep,
you'll have to pay some tax on it. But in the moment, it's tax free. So now you can take that cash, either use it to live off of if you want, if that's like your quote unquote income. Instead of flipping, you're kind of flipping to yourself, but tax
yep,
free. So you basically are giving yourself what, a 20% raise just by
yeah,
giving it to yourself, right? And
yeah. I mean,
then
I say we literally just got done refining out of one. It was a property that we bought for like 120, I think, and we stuck barely anything. Maybe I'd say maybe 8 grand into it,
wow,
and then turned around and got it rented out. I think we got it rented out for it's a single family house. We got it rented out for like 1550 a month, and the payment on it is 1350. So cash flow is $200 a month.
yep,
And I mean that's everything. That's all included because we include water and all that stuff. So average cash flow is probably 150 to $200 on it.
yep.
And I think we cashed out just shy of $30,000 on the refi,
Ooh-wee.
non-taxable.
Yeah, that's
So I
awesome.
mean, I'll do those deals all day long if I can.
Absolutely. Well, and then what's great is your tenants are now paying down that new debt for you again, and they
Hmm.
started the clock over, and now 5, 10 years, you got another possible refi opportunity, pull more capital
Yep.
back out again. And I was just talking to Zach Morgan on the podcast before this, that's going to come out probably the week before you, and we had the same discussion of like, he was sharing an example similar to that, and we just did the math. I said, well, how long have you owned it? And it was $60,000, and he owned it for 4 years. And I said, well, divide 60 by 4. And now think about that, divide each of those by 12. That's your monthly cash flow. Even if you made zero quote unquote cash flow,
Hmm.
no money went in your bank account every year, you just put 60 grand in your pocket tax free. I mean, that's your cash flow over the years, right? So buy and hold strategy, it's tough to beat, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah. And it sounds like you guys are going that way. Is it because of the tax implications of the flips, or what's the reason you guys are making that shift?
Um, that's probably one of the reasons is just the taxes, but the other reason is just because I like having the appreciation too. I mean, you know, what those houses are going to be worth in the next 10 to 15 years, as long as everything keeps going up, or even if it goes down, it's going to come back out of it eventually. So if you can hold on to them, even if it goes down into a turn, if you can hold on to them through the down times, you're going to come out even better in the long run. So
Sure. Well, and you look at like interest rates right now, people complain about the interest rates right now. Even if they went back up again, uh, in 3 to 5 years, when the interest rates hopefully are back into the fives, maybe if low
mm,
fives, now you refinance. Now those things, now you look like a genius, right?
yeah,
So you break even for a few years on cash flow, but you're building equity, the thing's appreciating, you're getting debt paid down, you're getting tax benefits, right? And now when you refinance it in a few years, you can pull some cash back out, and now you're maybe going to lower your payment at that time, and now you look like a genius because you're cash
yeah,
flowing big money. And rents typically appreciate as well, so
yeah.
they're typically going to go up over time too. Well, that's exciting, man. So do you guys have a big goal as far as like how many rental units you're trying to get to, or a certain cash flow number, or a certain equity number? Or are you just going to keep plugging away? And
Just probably just keep on going until we don't have to anymore.
okay, very cool.
I don't know. I don't see us stopping anytime soon. So
Yeah. What about
I
like,
I always put a goal on it. I always say, yeah, I want to get to 50 by the end of the year, and then that never happens. And then so it's like I kind of just fly by the seat of our pants.
just do a couple, keep it going, and then get a couple
Yep.
more, and as they come? Yeah, very cool,
Yeah,
very
I think
cool.
actually last year we only did the last 2 years we only did one flip and sell a piece, each year,
Okay.
and then the rest of them we kept everything. So
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. The bookkeeping thing, I want to go back to that. This was something one of our mentors told us right out of the gates. Like we'd only done a handful of deals, and we had this guy that was mentoring us. And I mean, he was amazing. And he's like, get a good bookkeeper and a good real estate specific accountant right now. And we're like, well, we're not even doing that much. He's like, yeah, but you want to, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like,
yeah,
so set it up now, and you'll thank us later. And good Lord, you're right. Cause I
yeah,
hate doing bookkeeping. Like,
yeah,
I don't have patience for it. I want to go do deals. I don't
yeah,
want to do
yeah, and I
books.
don't I don't either, and that's what Wanda she does a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure. So those of you guys listening out there, if you're just starting out, get yourself a good bookkeeper, get connected with a good real estate specific accountant, even if you don't think you're worthy of it at this point or that you have enough stuff going on. You set up the system now and you can grow into it to where you're going to
Yep,
go. Right.
exactly.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. What has been like? Let's talk about some deals. Let's go into some deal talk, Dave. Talk about like what's the biggest rehab you guys have ever had to do? Have you guys had one where you've had like a monster, project that ended up being a big bear, and how did it work out?
Well, I could go a couple ways. I could go the one that we lost our ass on, but
Well, yeah, let's talk about it because I think
you want to talk
we
about
don't
a bad one?
we don't need
I was
we don't
talking
need
to
to be the
Dwayne this
highlight reel.
morning. I was talking to Dwayne this morning, and I told him that I was coming on this with you, and
Yeah,
we were talking about it. And I said, I'm like, I could probably just do a podcast of all the stuff that I screwed up because
that's
I think I
great.
messed up just about everything.
Hey, that's
Uh,
perfect.
but we bought a house. It was actually a friend of mine from high school. It was her grandmother's house. Went into a home. We went down and bought it. It was a huge, huge house, huge old house built in the 1800s. Old farmhouse. It was like 7 bedrooms, one bathroom.
Oh,
Yeah. So we at least we rearranged a bunch of walls and did everything, and I think we ended up turning it into a 5 bed, 2 bathroom,
okay.
and added like a nice dining area and all that. I mean, it ended up being really nice. We ended up sticking about $130,000 into it.
Wow.
Bought it for 70. We used Tony for hard money.
Yeah. So
Bought it
if
for
you guys don't know,
70.
Tony is owner of Good Faith Funding. He has a
Yep.
hard money lending company. And if you go back, I think he's like episode 5 or something like that. And then his partner Jairus is on another episode as well. But anyway, go ahead,
Yep.
Dave.
Awesome guys to work with. But yeah, so we used them and we stuck like 130,000 into it, figuring that it would be worth about 250 when we're all done. So we're
Okay.
like, all right, well, we'll still make about $50,000, after closing costs and all that, even if we make 30. And it was a property that we didn't actually do any of the work. We contracted everything
Okay.
out. So again, it was one of those deals that just popped up and was like, yep, I'll take it. We'll have our contractor do it and take the whole thing. So that way we don't, so it's like, okay, we'll make $30,000 without having to do anything. I'm okay with that. And sat on the market, sat on the market, sat on the market, couldn't sell it. Ended up selling it for $200,000. So
Oh,
after we were, all the interest and everything, we were we were behind about 30 grand on it.
wow.
So yeah, that was the biggest hit we had to take. But
Ouch.
um, so yeah, that was our worst deal ever.
Okay. Okay. What do you think went wrong with that deal? Let's talk through that. Was it an underwriting thing on
Well,
the
my
front end?
contractor
Was it
told me that contractor told me he was going to get it done in 3 months,
okay?
and the other thing was, and it took him 6 months. So then we were already behind. By the time we got it sold, we were already into it 7, 8 months, I think.
Mm,
So then you're paying extra interest and all the extra closing or holding costs. And then this just the ARV, like I said, I figured a 5 bed, 2 bath house. I mean, even if it was an Omro, it was sitting on a double lot. I mean, it was a big, huge lot with an extra garage. I figured it was 250 all day long after, but that yeah, that was a whole different area down there. Which
yeah.
is funny because it's where I'm from. I grew up there. So
Okay.
I kind of figured I was like, well, I know this town. Like I could sell this for 250 down there. And
Yeah.
yeah, didn't work out.
Not so good. Well, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of lessons in that, right? Like, like contractor wise, what they tell you 3 months, budget for 6, double whatever they
Yeah.
tell you for a timeline, right?
Yeah.
Because have you ever had experience? So you guys have worked with contractors before. Now you're doing your own thing, but working with contractors, Dave, now as a contractor, what are some things like investors should be doing to have a successful relationship with a contractor, make sure that that contractor is, A, the contractors to make money, but B, there has to be a good symbiotic relationship there. So, like, what are some things you see having
Yeah.
this on
I
both
mean,
fields?
I still contract out like windows, roofs, siding, like pretty much all the exterior stuff. I don't like doing any exterior stuff. We pretty much
Yep.
just do the interior. And I mean, we got a good relationship with our contractors that we use for all of those. So, I mean, and this one wasn't, he kind of just, he would start on the project and then all of a sudden, well, something else popped up. I got to run over here and just do this for a couple days. And so he was constantly back and forth, and you just got to stay on them. And I mean, that's kind of been my issue with other contractors. That's kind of why I went and just got my GC license, just so I don't have to deal with it anymore.
That's what I
I
figured.
can
I
pull the
figured you'd be
permits.
a good guy to talk to about this.
I can pull the permits. I can do whatever I need to do, and then I can get the subcontractors in and make sure they're rolling.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty much what I'm doing right now. I'm not this house that I'm working on right now is not even my house. This is actually one of Dwayne Murphy's houses,
Okay.
and I'm pretty much just kind of taking over the contracting for him on
Okay.
because he's got a couple other ones going on. So
Okay.
I just took over this one and basically just doing some work. We're doing a bunch of framing and stuff, and then we're hiring out the drywalling and the plastering and the painting and all the other stuff. So I'm just kind of doing that, you just got to kind of keep everything on a timeline.
So you're almost more like project managing besides the carpentry
Yep.
stuff a little
Yeah.
bit.
This one.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So somebody else could do that without a license, a GC license,
Yeah.
if it's their own property, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as somebody, you still, if you have to pull a permit like this one, we had to have the whole foundation excavated and everything. So there was no way to get away without doing anything without permits. So,
Yep.
he had to have somebody be able to pull the permits.
Okay. Got it. Cool. So if you're doing it by yourself, like say, Dave, you weren't licensed and you were just going to be doing work, you're on everything you're going to do by yourself. Are you still required to pull permits and do you need a GC for that? Or can you pull a
Yep.
permit without being a GC if it's your own property?
If you're the homeowner and you're going to live there and you're living there, you can pull the permits. But if it's not your primary residence, then you need to have a GC, a
Um,
licensed GC pull the permits.
you can tell how many properties I physically get involved with, right? Asking these questions, I legit didn't know that. That's good. So more tips. Give me some more tips of working with contractors because this is a big pain point for a lot of people out there. Like So staying on their butts. But is there anything
Yep.
you guys do on the front end as far as like contractually to make sure that like, is there anything you can put in as far as like, we're gonna like I've heard other people do this in the past years ago. I feel like it's less and less now because contractors are in such demand. But it used to be like in your contract you could put some kind of penalty if they're not done by a certain day or something like that. Like, is there anything like that that you're doing now, or any other
No,
strategies you do?
we had talked about it, but we never implemented anything because, like I said, we only ever had somebody take a flip and do twice is that we didn't touch, that we had somebody
Okay.
else completely do all the work. So
Okay.
I mean, we're pretty much staying on. I'm at the house every day. Wanda's at the house almost every day when she doesn't have the book work to do. So I mean, we're working there and making sure everything is moving along. If that's not what you wanted to do, then yeah, then I mean there's probably some wordage that you could put into the contract that you need to be done by this date, or give at least progress updates by each time you get to a certain step, like the framing's done. Okay, I want the framing done by this date, and then I'll check it out, and then I'll release part of the money that I owe you.
Okay.
And then you go on to the next one. I want, by it should be painted by such and such date. And then if it gets painted by that date, then I'll give you that much money.
Okay.
And kind
Cool.
of put it in like a draw system, just like it is when you're building a house.
Yep. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest pain points is like people are like, "Oh, cool, I got somebody that'll do the work. Great. Here's the project. Here's what I want it to look like." Like, and then they come back and they're like, nothing's been done here, right?"
Yeah.
So I think having those upfront conversations, it sounds like, is really important with your contractors too, and just having clear expectations and ideally written out, signed and agreed on by both
Yeah.
parties. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is make sure you price check everybody.
Okay.
We kind of got with our first electrician that we ever used, like we just kind of got used to him and was like, okay, we got another project, just come get it done. And he went, it's mostly time and materials and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, it'll be $13,000. Okay, well then the next all of a sudden he sends me the bill for like $17,000 without saying a word. Like there was no talk, no conversation. I was like, what's this for? And I still couldn't get a hold of him. He wouldn't explain it. So I ended up just biting the bullet, paying him, and then found a couple more electricians. So
Jeez.
now we kind of we'll bring two or three in at a time and get bids on them, and
Okay.
obviously most of the time they're pretty close to each other, pretty competitive, and you kind of pick the one that you work with the best. But
Yeah.
we got a pretty good electrician now and a pretty good plumber that now I really don't have to price check them too much anymore because
They
we've done enough of
stay.
them. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of have a good idea of what the plumbing cost is going to be and what the electrical cost is going to be before I even bring them in. So
Yeah. Well, that's a great little nugget there for the audience there, guys. So listen back to that. Dave's just talking about when you're getting going or you're trying to figure out your team, you got to bring a couple people in and get some competitive bids on this stuff on these projects. So let's talk about timelines, Dave, because I think you're in a unique position being in swinging hammers and doing things and coordinating your people. When you guys go and you get a property, like you put an offer in, you get accepted. What does it look like between like that date of when you get it accepted and when you finish the project and you list it and now it's being sold? Are you guys doing a lot of stuff prior to closing besides getting lending and that kind of stuff as far as lining people up? Is it start the day it closes, then you start going? Like, tell everybody a little bit about your guys' system and process to be
sure.
as efficient and effective
So
as
yeah, I
possible.
mean, usually like, if we're able to walk the property and kind of get an idea of, what we're all going to need first, once we get an accepted offer, I'll let, my plumber know, I'll let my electrician know. If I need a roof, I'll let my roofer know that, because a lot of the roofers can go off of like Google Maps, or they have like a bird's eye app or whatever that they can use. So they don't even need to go to the property. They can just look it up, so they can start giving you quotes before we even close on it.
Nice.
And then
Okay.
that way with the day we close, we go in there, we do the clean out, we do the demo, we do everything that we need to do, get the permits pulled, and then bring everybody in. And we kind of have everything. We like to have everything kind of lined up before we even close on it.
Okay.
At least give the subcontractors heads up, like, hey, I got this property. When we close, it'll be a couple days after that. I'm going to need you in. So, kind of give them a heads up.
Cool. Is that something you've always done, or is that something you kind of figured out once you
That's
got?
something we just kind of figured out because, all of a sudden you close on a property and you're ready for the rough end plumbing and an electrical, and they're like, well, we're 2 weeks out.
Yeah,
Well, we can't get to you for 2 weeks. So this way, if you give them a little bit of heads up, then they can at least put you on the calendar for, a tentative date.
that's awesome. That's such a good nugget right there because time is money, especially if you're using a hard money lender. or private
Yeah.
money or something where you're paying high interest rate. Like the longer that baby sits, like your 7 month
Yep.
project, all your profit goes to the lender and not to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. What are some other things that you guys have found that have made, this real estate thing successful for you guys? Obviously, you've had the struggles. Maybe it's lessons learned or whatever. But what are some other
Hmm.
things that you guys have implemented or that have done? Maybe it's, your relationship with Wanda too, of like, she does this, I do this, or like just any kind of tips that you guys have found or things that have made this thing viable for you guys to do as a full-time business.
Yeah, I mean, we it's good because we work really well together. And even if we have a couple different projects going, they're usually always in different stages. So usually I'll go in first. Me and my father-in-law actually are the one we do a lot of like the rough work. We'll do the clean out, we'll do the demo, we'll do the framing. We'll get all the rough ends taken care of, hang the drywall, insulate, plaster, paint. And well, actually, we just plaster. And then my wife, Wanda, she comes in and she'll do the painting, and then she'll do the trim work. And she's
Okay.
she's really good with all like the detail stuff
Yeah.
that I'm not good at.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
usually, once I get to a point, I want to get out of a property and I want to get on to the next one. And then like she comes in and she puts like the towel racks in, and like just all the trim, and caulking the trim, and like all the little stuff, the touch up stuff that I
Yeah.
I don't like doing.
Yeah.
And that's, she kind of likes doing that stuff. So it works out really good because then I can move on to the next one and start working on the next one.
Nice. How are you guys making decisions on what to buy? Do you have a specific buy box that you guys stay pretty clear to? Is it more of like a opportunistic buy box? Okay, we're closing on these couple. This one came up. I guess we'll take it. Like, how are you guys deciding what to work on next and make offers on and that kind of thing?
Like I said, we've kind of always just flown by the seat of our pants. So we don't really have, I mean, yeah, we love the 1945 to 55 built ranches, like everybody loves, but
Sure.
those are pretty few and far between lately. So I mean,
Yeah.
we'll really take anything that we can, if it's going to cash flow, and we can, hopefully cash out a little bit on a refi when we're done. I
Okay.
mean, it's just all in the numbers. I mean, some people are real picky about what they buy. I don't really care if it's a two-story or a ranch, or if it's got a basement or if it doesn't. Like I said, as long as the numbers work, I'll pretty much buy anything.
Nice. Very good. The contractor thing, going back to that and building your team, this is an important part of real estate, right? You like gotta have your accountant, like you talked about, your bookkeeper, like all these different people. But I think when people are starting out, Dave, get finding people to do the work can be a challenge. Like, well, how are you guys finding these electricians, plumbers? Is it as simple as you're just picking, going on Google? What about the blaster guys, those things? Like, what are the ways that somebody who's just starting out can start to build that team of people who could do the work for them?
Yeah, so I mean, when we first started, it was pretty much just Google, and then Facebook. Like went on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a plumber. Who do you guys recommend?" And then
Okay.
I think somebody recommended the one that we use now, and I had him come in with a couple different bids, and he beat everybody, and price checked him a few other times, and he's always beating everybody. And now we just have a great relationship where I can just call him and tell him that I need a couple guys this day, and they
Nice.
usually send them.
Okay.
Um, the electrician, we've found electricians through Facebook. I think Wanda put a post up that if we were looking for an electrician, and somebody recommended this other guy that we use now, and
Nice.
and yeah, I mean it worked out great. I know Dwayne has gotten a couple like drywallers and plasters and finish people off of Facebook as well, just
Okay.
by putting posts out saying, hey, who do you recommend for this? And then you just reach out to them
Yeah.
and get them in to take a look at them.
Easy peasy. Right. Is that similar to lenders? Are you doing the same thing to try to find your lenders, Facebook and that sort of thing? Or what's the strategy
Yeah, I
there?
mean, lenders is typically kind of word of mouth, just talking to other investors, hey, who did you use for this deal? And then they tell you, okay, and what were the terms, then they go kind of the same way. I got a lot of people that call me and ask me who we're using, and then, then that way I can get information out of them on who they're using too. So it kind of
Yeah.
works both ways.
Nice. A little good back and forth there. Right. That's
Yeah.
what this community is all about, right? Sharing some
Yep.
information, helping the next guy out. I love it, man. Do you attend a lot of networking events, or did you attend a lot of networking events to kind of get some of this
I've
stuff
I've
in?
attended a few. I don't typically go. They usually always happen on nights that I got stuff going on, so I can't.
Yeah.
You got when you got four kids, you got a lot of stuff going on at
Yeah.
different times. So
Yeah. I'm
they're
right there with you.
usually a lot of the investor stuff. I tried to do the caffeine and cash flow ones as you guys
Mhm.
done. We've been to a couple of them. But then like usually the Wisco Rio ones I think are usually on Wednesday nights. One of them were on Wednesday nights, I think, and that one's
Okay.
just a busy night, so there's nothing I can do there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I love that. I love that the caffeine cash flow option is out there now for networking for people who have a lot of stuff going on at nights. Like we have 4 kids. Um,
Yep.
it makes I go to the REI Success Group, which is one that we run once a month.
Yep.
It's the last Tuesday of every month. And so I just plan it out. I'm gonna go to that every month. But to get to a lot of the other ones, it's tough. And I live an
Yeah.
hour 15 now from Green Bay. There's really no real estate networking up here in Door County. So you
Yeah.
gotta go to the big city of Green Bay to get networking the closest thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, the networking piece has been a big part of our success for sure over the
Oh, for
years.
sure.
Yeah. What are any other like podcast books, any other thing, Dave, that have been influential for you and Wanda and your real estate journey that have helped you guys, move that needle, so to speak, or anything
Yeah,
else?
I would say probably the Bigger Pockets podcast. That was the first one that I ever started listening to, and I kind of got in on that one, and then just kind of got hooked on it. I mean, anywhere I was going, I was listening to that one.
Mm,
And then when I heard we listened to that one before I even bought a property, and then I heard the one about the burr investing.
yep.
And once I heard that, I was like, "Oh my God, this is genius! Like, why isn't everybody doing this?"
Yeah.
Went home and I was talking to Wanda about it, and she was like, "All right, well, just do it." So
Yeah.
I kind of went probably another maybe 2 months or so without buying anything,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I was bringing her deals and kind of just telling them, but I was always just afraid to pull the trigger. And
Yeah.
and then finally one day she just looked at me and she's like, you always talk about these people that are, getting bogged down by decision making and just kind of over analyzing everything. She's like, if you
Yeah.
think it's a good deal, she's like, just go buy it. I don't care. I'm like, okay, fine. So I went and bought that first one, and it's pretty much worked out ever since. So
That's awesome. And that first one, was that successful for you guys? That wasn't the big
yeah.
grandma house.
Yeah, no, that wasn't that. This one was just a little 2 bed, 1 bath, like 650 square foot house in Oshkosh. And like I said, we kept it. I think we got it rented out now and we bought it for $45,000
Jeez.
and like stuck like 20 into it, I think. And it's worth like 130 now.
Nice.
And we got it rented out for, I think, like $1,000. So we
Nice.
make about $400 a month, I think, on that one. So
I love it, man.
I like
That's
that little
cool.
house.
Yeah.
Those little houses, I'll take every little 2 bed, 1 bath house I could find.
I love it, man. I love
The
it. Well, I'm gonna.
rehabs are small on them, and I like
That's
them.
yeah. That's another point I think people forget about when they look at the little ones. Is even if it needs one of everything, it's not going to be nearly as much because you got a lot less labor and time that has to go into because there's a lot less square footage.
Yeah.
Right? So you can make them look
Now, granted,
really good.
that was in 2019, 2020, so material cost was a lot cheaper. But I mean,
Yeah.
we actually took that thing right down to the studs and
Oh
rewired it,
wow.
replumbed it, new insulation, like everything, and we were into it for $20,000.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
Yeah, like we've lived through the time where like we're the old people now that we used to have to walk uphill both ways with no
yeah,
shoes, and like we talked about. Remember back in 2019, you could pick up a house for $45,000. Yeah, that's how it is. It's
yeah,
different, but I see that a lot, Dave. Like I talk to a lot of people that are still sitting on the sidelines, right? Analysis paralysis, like you
yeah.
mentioned, fears around it, the market. They're watching the market. The interest rates are high. Like they have every excuse not to do real estate. Like, what would you say to somebody that's sitting there in this current market environment that's sitting on the sidelines with some of those same fears that maybe you shared back in 2019?
Well, I mean, the one quote that kind of always got me was the best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. I mean, it's you're only gonna get into it if you jump. So you might
Yeah.
as well jump. We
Yeah.
always say we kind of jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys
We
fly
don't
by the
really
seat of
know.
your pants. Like,
Yeah,
figure it
yeah, we
out.
really
Yeah.
don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. What were some of your biggest fears? Do you remember back in 2019 when you were going through this kind of analysis paralysis thing? Like, what was the biggest fears that you were feeling at that time? That
I
was
mean, it was just the money. I mean, at that point, I mean, we were sitting, we were doing okay in the real estate, in the sales business, but it's not like, just to think about throwing $100,000 around, like that was just nuts. I mean, back then we didn't know anything, like how to do it or
yeah.
really anything about it. So I mean, we were kind of just learning everything as we went.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it was just, well, what if it doesn't work out? Then we're sitting there with this property that we can't get rid of or something. It's just
Sure.
all the fears that just go through your mind. But now it's kind of like, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out later. But
Yeah. I think what's fascinating about the progression, Dave, and you've probably done this with experience, is like I was the same way on my first one. I remember Tony Breuer, our friend at Good Faith Funding, it. He kind of helped me get started too. And I was like, Tony, what if I can't burr out of this thing? And what I mean by that is like pull all my capital back out or my private money's capital back out and pay him back and have like no money into the deal. And he's like, yeah, so what? And I was like, but then I'll have money stuck in the deal. He's like, yeah, but
yeah,
if you didn't do it, you would have 20% down plus all your rehab money. So like, what
yeah,
if you have like 5% stuck into it versus 25 or 30 or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And he's like, then worst case, you just rent it and like let it
Yeah.
rent forever. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I guess I'll
Yeah.
just
He's
do this.
he's kind of a smart guy. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell him to listen to this episode because I don't want to make his headache bigger than it is. No, I'm just kidding.
No, before we started using them too, we sat down with them and I think we went out to lunch or something and kind of just sat and talked. And I brought him a couple deals that I was looking at. And after we got all done, he was like, "Yeah, go ahead, go buy them both. I don't care." I was like,
Yeah,
"Okay,
yeah. And you're like, what? I can go shopping
yeah,
now? This is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I love it because it sounds like for a lot of people, like for me, once I did that first one, I was still like had some reservations about the next one, but they were a lot less, right? Like the first one, I was
yep,
trying to self sabotage. Actually, I was like, I hope this deal falls through. I hope we don't actually get it because I'm scared, whatever. And then we got it. I'm like, crap. What am I going to do
hmm
now? We actually own this property, and I don't even know what the difference between a water heater and a furnace looks like, right? And I was like, all right, crap. We got to make this thing work, right? I got the second one. It's a little bit easier. Got through that one, and we made some money. And then like now I'm to the point like I don't even really look at deals anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, how much rehab does it need about? Okay, about that. What's the ARV? Okay, yeah, that works. I'll put this is my offer. And I couldn't even tell you some of the properties that I own. Like if I drove past them, I won't even know them because it's just like
yeah,
you get that comfort level. And I'm not saying that's a brag or
yeah,
be like, wow, look at me, I'm so smart. It's just you get a
yeah,
comfort level of the numbers and you just know, like we're talking about buy and hold, you hold it long enough, it's gonna be fine. You know,
yep,
you just don't stress about it anymore. So
yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Dave, this is awesome, man. I want to get you out of there because I know you got to get working on this property, it looks like. So
yep,
dude, this has been awesome. I love all of the information and I love that you bring a little bit different perspective than me and that in what you do. And you've got a whole different viewpoint on things and some great tips I think everybody can take away from here. Specifically, I learned a lot just about contractors and timelines and that kind of thing. I think there's some great nuggets in there. But I always wrap up with one question. And that question is, and this is more so for those folks who maybe aren't familiar with Wisconsin. You know, some people out there in the Californias and the New Yorks that are looking to get a yield on their cash. We got a great state here, we think, right? So
yep.
we got to get them indoctrinated a little bit to Wisconsin. So favorite Wisconsin tradition for you, Dave, or favorite place to visit in Wisconsin?
I'd say a favorite place to visit is definitely up north.
Mm,
Anywhere up north, Minocqua, Tomahawk area. I love going up there. We have some land. It's pretty much straight north of Green Bay and Amber, just north of Crivets. I love going up there and just being up north and just slowing down a little bit. It's always nice. We got a lot of nice lakes around here. Getting out on the boat and doing some boating. Summertime we hit the Wolf River quite a bit and go hit the sandbars on the boat. That's nice.
oh, nice. Very good. I think, Minocqua Eagle River area so far out of all the episodes, I think we're taking a poll. I think that one wins so far.
Yeah,
So I'm right there with you. That's my favorite place. I live in Door County,
yeah,
which is beautiful, but I still prefer
yeah.
if I could spend time in Eagle River. I love it up there in Minocqua area. So for those of you guys that tuned in, we appreciate you guys listening. Sharing is caring. So share this episode. Let somebody else get tuned in on this, or anybody else you think that's looking to get into real estate investing. If you're new to real estate investing and you need some help, or you need some connections, or you just need some guidance on where to go, hit us up. Go to wisconsindiscountproperties.com. Fill out the contact us form. Somebody from our team will reach out to you. And we're not trying to sell you anything or get you going. We just want to help you get into the game and get the ball rolling. So until the next episode, we'll see you then.